This bull looks like a real monster, which was brought out in the laboratory and even pumped up with steroids. Its size is impressive, with a mass of almost 1.5 tons. It is twice as large as ordinary bulls. Every muscle is visible under the smooth hide. If such a bull were to strike, then even without horns, he could break through a wall. And this impressive musculature is not a single mutation, but the dignity of an entire breed. It is called the Belgian Blue cow. And at home, it is considered a real pride of breeders. Can you immediately imagine some mad scientist who tried to bring out an army of super strong bulls? No, there were no gamma irradiations as in the case of the Hulk, and there was not even a simple gene modification. Such pronounced musculature is found in many animals as a result of a natural mutation. The gene that is responsible for muscle growth simply becomes more active, so the body in the process of development uses food as a building material for such an impressive muscle frame to a greater extent than in the case of ordinary animals without this gene. This mutation occurs not only in cows, but also in other animals, for example, in dogs. However, the breeders who were engaged in breeding the Belgian Blue cow made efforts to fix this gene and turn it from a random mutation into a stable breed trait. To do this, they simply crossed cows and bulls with this gene amongst themselves. The result is a bodybuilding bull which is not only larger, but also much stronger than representatives of most other breeds. It's just that the Belgian Blue bull was not brought out to participate in fights or bullfights, and this is good, because then the matadors would simply not have a chance. This breed of bull was bred for meat. You would be surprised, but such a volume of muscles makes bull meat less fatty than chicken, and more than 3 times less fatty than regular beef. And on the contrary, there is much more protein. In addition, these bulls are real good-natured and have a very balanced character. Of course, it's not worth teasing them, but for no reason such bulls do not use their superpower and do not run to attack. But would you dare to approach such an animal? Let us know in the comments. The Brahman bull looks like the fruit of the forbidden love of a cow and a camel. But this, of course, is not the case. Such hybrids are impossible due to a large difference in the genetic code of these animals. However, the Brahman looks really unusual. A huge, powerful body, a large head the size of a human torso, and at the same time a massive hump that adds almost half a foot, about 15 centimeters, to the height of the beast and can be so large that it will fall on its side while running. The Brahman is the first breed of cattle that was bred in the United States at the very beginning of the 20th century. That's just as the name implies, it was based on breeds brought to the States from distant India. The weight of a bull can go far beyond a ton, and in height, 6.5 feet, about 2 meters. Its huge hump is not an ornament, but rather plays the same role as the hump of a camel. It can be a container of nutrients if the animal has to go for a long time without water and food. That's why these animals are so loved by farmers in the United States. A Brahman bull can be released to free grazing and not worry about whether the animal will find water and food. Even if it walks through a deserted territory for a while, the fat reserve in the hump will help it survive without loss of health before food is found in sufficient quantity. I'd say that abilities like this deserve your like, don't you agree? In addition, it is not only one of the largest bulls on the planet, but also one of the most persistent and hardy. Its skin is so dense that the animal is practically invulnerable to the bites of the largest mosquitoes and other bloodsuckers. This means that the animal will not suffer from ailments that these insects carry. The Chianina is a breed of bulls that resemble a cloud. No, I don't mean that they're fluffy, I just mean that it seems that the shadow of such a giant can really cover a small city. The height of this beast is 6.5 feet, about 2 meters. The weight can reach 1.5 tons. This makes him one of the biggest bulls in the world. He is so huge that it competes in size with young hippos. Huge strength, endurance, and surprisingly calm character traits made this bull very popular. The Chianina is not only considered one of the most common breeds in its native Italy, but has also become popular far beyond its Italian borders. It is also considered incredibly ancient, older than some countries in which this breed is now bred. Huge herds of Chianina graze in many countries of South America. In addition to its huge size, this giant has a skin that resembles armor. Therefore, not only blood-sucking insects, but also small snakes cannot bite through it. What you need for a tropical climate, to which this beast has adapted well and does not suffer at all from the heat, which could drive you into an air-conditioned room in half an hour. Usually a cow is much smaller than a bull, about 1.5 times. But in the case of the Montbeliarde breed, the situation's a little different. These huge animals impress with their size regardless of gender. The most common cow grows so big that its height at the withers reaches 6 feet, 1.8 meters. That is the height of an adult man. Bulls, of course, are also huge. This French breed was bred to produce milk and meat. The logic of breeders is simple. The bigger the cow, the more milk it can give. And you know what? That's right. A cow gives about 8.5 tons of milk a year, enough to feed a small village. And the entire farm can export milk and products from it. So these cows are a real source of white gold. However, most of this wealth goes to the cheese. Some brands of elite French cheeses, for example, Montour, Maubier, Comté, and Bleu de Gex, must contain milk from these cows. There it is, career success. As for bulls, their meat is valued for the absolute, complete absence of a fat layer, amazing tenderness, and elasticity. Sorry, vegetarians, these are dry facts, not meat-eating propaganda. The German Angus is an unusual breed of bull, which immediately catches the eye with its massiveness. The weight of a cow can significantly exceed half a ton, but the main thing is bulls. The difference between the sexes in this breed is huge, and males are about twice as heavy as females, reaching a mass of more than a ton. At the same time, the backbone of bulls is only 15% of the animal's weight, which is quite small. Therefore, the bull looks a little puffed up with his broad chest, huge body, and head on relatively thin legs. But no, he doesn't suffer from obesity. This is a natural trait of the animal. The Asian swamp buffalo is a true titan even among other wild-horned heavyweights. He is a third larger than ordinary bulls with a mass of up to 1.2 tons. But the main thing is the dimensions. The height at the withers of the marsh buffalo can reach almost 7 feet, about 2.2 to 2.3 meters. In length, it grows up to 10 feet, almost 3 meters. That is, in size, this animal sort of resembles a minibus. But the most impressive are the huge, powerful horns. They are slightly curved and usually directed backwards so as not to interfere with the animal passing through dense thickets. And for good reason, because the length of the horns of wild individuals can reach 7 feet, more than 2 meters. And if such a huge weapon was pointed up and forward like deer, then after a walk through the forest, the buffalo would have to clean the horns from bird nests and broken tree branches. Once upon a time, this majestic beast lived on a vast territory throughout Asia. The western tip of its range reached ancient Mesopotamia, while the eastern one reached southern China. In addition, this buffalo lived on many islands, for example in the Philippines and Malaysia. Unfortunately, due to deforestation and the development of wildlands for agriculture, these buffaloes now live only in India, Nepal, Bhutan, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Ceylon. And that's not bad either though, is it? The only trouble is that wild herds of these buffaloes are adjacent to domestic bulls, which are on free grazing in many of these countries. These domestic bulls are descendants of the Asian buffalo, which was tamed thousands of years ago, so the animals can freely interbreed. This is a problem because over the centuries, under the care of a person, domestic bulls have changed quite a lot. Their horns have become almost twice as short, a sagging belly has appeared, and the character has changed. Do you remember what Thor looked like in Infinity War, and then in Endgame? Here, too, the difference is about the same. An unpleasant sight, wouldn't you agree? I do agree. It motivates you to take care of yourself. Cubs from wild and domestic buffaloes are usually weaker than purebred wild individuals. This is bad because there are almost no worthy opponents in nature for an adult wild buffalo. Only the tiger and the largest crocodiles can attack adult males. The battle of the tiger and the buffalo is one of the most impressive duels that can be seen in the wild. Opponents are worthy of each other. The largest and strongest wildcat against the largest and most aggressive wild buffalo in all of Asia. The tiger sneaks up to the buffalo to pounce on the prey before it has time to use its horns. The predator is trying to get to the throat, and a tiger can break the net of smaller individuals with one blow. But an adult bull is too strong, so the tiger's only chance is to get to the neck vessels with its fangs or strangle. That's just that the ungulate does not give up without a fight and can trample the tiger. And if he notices the cat too early and manages to meet the jump with his horns, then the tiger will at best be forced to run. In addition, buffaloes are herd animals, and mutual assistance of ungulates can be a very bad trait for a tiger. In the worst case, the striped beast itself will become a victim. But the more blood of a domestic cousin in a wild buffalo, the weaker and more vulnerable it is to other predators like leopards, wolves, and red dogs. The python thought that in front of him was an ordinary rodent that would easily become prey. Fatal error. The porcupine masterfully wields needles as a real weapon. There are several species of animals that, with small sizes, have such trump cards that will unpleasantly surprise even the most formidable predators. Squirrels have a reputation for being cute and innocent animals. Their fast jumps, timid nature, and fluffy tails made them a good image of good-natured and cuties. Here it is, effective PR in action. It must have affected the snakes as well. This venomous reptile thought it was going to have a delicious snack. Big mistake. The squirrel doesn't even try to escape. On the contrary, she goes on the attack herself. A cobra can take down a horse with one bite, but a squirrel turns out to be too agile and dexterous. Not a single throw hits the target. The snake already takes a defensive position in a panic, opens the collar, but the squirrel doesn't care. She attacks again and again as lightning rushes from side to side. This is not a unique case. It turns out that squirrels are great fighters. They avoid fights, but if they are angered, then even larger predators will only have to run. These rodents prefer nuts, fruits, and vegetable food, but on occasion they will gladly snack on a poisonous snake. Squirrels have no immunity from the poison of these reptiles, only agility, lightning-fast reaction, and courage, which would be enough for several lions. So don't joke with that squirrel when you feed her nuts. The tactics of squirrels are very unusual. They can either attack from the flanks to confuse less agile opponents, or use their tail. No, they don't hit the snake with it, but they distract them. The tail rises above the squirrel's back, the snake reacts to it and tries to bite, but its teeth slip off the fluffy fur. Meanwhile, the sharp teeth of the squirrel, which easily cope with the hard shell of nuts, are already getting to the scales of the enemy. A porcupine is a small, well-fed animal the size of a dog, with short paws and a cute muzzle. But experienced predators try to avoid this. The reason is simple. Porcupine quills are practically an ultimate weapon against most predators. The fact is that they have a slightly jagged structure, so they do not just hit the enemy with painful injections, but get stuck in their flesh. In addition, the needles are very quickly and easily detached from the porcupine itself. Therefore, most often, a skirmish, a lot of needles remain in their predator's body. And that's when the most unpleasant thing happens: inflammation. In a warm and humid climate, an infection penetrates into the wound, which very quickly causes blood poisoning, tissue death. And such a wound hurts very much. No matter how tough a lion is, he has no grasping fingers, no antiseptics, no antibiotics. Therefore, an ordinary rodent, we can say an overgrown rat, is able to deal with an adult lion, which scatters a gang of hyenas and knocks down buffaloes. In addition, the porcupine is well aware of the capabilities of his weapons and uses it masterfully. He just seems cute. If the porcupine feels threatened, he will attack the enemy itself. And it looks funny from the outside. The porcupine walks with its back to the leopard, moves sideways, and tries to catch the enemy with the tips of his needles. But the leopard is not funny. The porcupine is able to come close with a powerful jerk and force the needles to dig deeper into the predator's flesh, and then move away with a light movement, leaving the needles there. The rodent acts so nimbly that it caused the myth that it shoots needles from a distance. This, of course, is not the case, but who knows where evolution will lead him. At the same time, porcupine needles, contrary to another myth, are not poisonous. These are ordinary modified hairs, just longer, harder, and tougher. But thanks to their flexibility, it is almost impossible to remove needles with their paws. And besides the threat of infection and pain, the needle will also interfere with movement. A terrible weapon. Thanks to this, it is much more difficult to cope with a porcupine than it seems at first glance. So give this porcupine a like. It definitely deserves it with its bravery and fighting skills. The alligator is very young, and the jaguar has the advantage in strength, but the reptile knows judo. Look at that throw over his shoulder. Definitely a black belt. The jaguar literally flies into the water. Usually, a sloth is an easy prey. He of course stinks, but he is not able to provide decent resistance because of his legendary slowness. Therefore, huge harpy eagles are very fond of hunting these animals. The birds literally brush the sloths out of the branches and take them to their nests for lunch. For them, sloths are an easy prey in 99% of cases. But this sloth is the exception. He turned out to be a tough nut to crack. The harpy is shocked herself, but she didn't know who she was messing with. Not only that, but the sloth somehow miraculously escaped the blow. So he also fights off the bird when it landed on the branches to deal with the prey in close combat. As a result, the harpy has to retreat. Like this anaconda. Sloths try not to leave the trees and reluctantly go down to the ground. For them, moving on the ground is so much more stressful that this beast just doesn't care about the anaconda. He literally steps on it to get to the right tree. Maybe the sloth's impudence scares the snake, or maybe it was just full, but the animal successfully trampled on the anaconda and got to the right tree it needed. Why do you think the anaconda didn't attack? Let us know in the comments. The main advantage of the Impala is speed. It is really impressive. Like the maneuverability of a hoofed animal, it is instantly able to change its direction of running and dodge the claws of the lioness at the last second. Fast as a bullet, the Impala passes the predator by itself and runs away, leaving the enemy to swallow its dust. This ungulate does not have enough strength to resist predators like leopards and hyenas. Therefore, if you have already been caught, then most likely the Impala will become lunch. But here the hyena clearly underestimated its enemy. She caught the Impala and was ready to take it with her fangs, but was distracted by the cheetah. Suddenly, the Impala jumps up and runs away. It turns out that she was alive the whole time. It just had enough composure to deceive the hyena and take advantage of the only chance for salvation. That's how cunning sometimes saves in cases where brute force is not enough. And an Impala also knows how to use someone else's competition for its own good. A group of animals at a watering hole was scared off by a leopard. The cunning predator appeared so unexpectedly that it surprised one of the Impalas, which was at a depth of. It didn't have time to escape. The young leopard's fangs closed in on its throat, and suddenly a hyena appeared. It was more massive than a very young spotted hunter, so she was able to drive away the competitor. But the Impala was alive and jumped to her feet at the moment when the hyena's fangs were as far away from her body as possible. As a result, the hoof managed to escape from a seemingly hopeless situation. It is worth paying tribute to the Impala's endurance. She doesn't try to pull away when the hyena was looking at her, and jumped up only when the opponent lost concentration. Usually zebras are not distinguished by a craving for mutual assistance. If predators attack, then each striped horse will be fending for itself. But sometimes there are exceptions. This zebra is one of them. Suddenly, she went on the attack on the lioness and right in front of the safari group and beat off a fellow predator. For the lioness, this was a shock. She clearly got involved with the wrong ungulates, which she used to hunt. The zebra successfully pushed the lioness away, after which it delivered such a powerful blow to its muzzle with its hooves that the sound could be heard even a few feet away. Although the failed victim was already quite a large individual, it was probably a teenager, and the protective zebra was its mother. However, sometimes a zebra can stand on its own against a lioness. Just look at the stubbornness and power with which the ungulate fights off the predator and shakes it off its neck. Amazing strength, which the lioness clearly did not expect. She holds on tightly with her curved claws, reaches for the throat of the prey, and does not give up until the last minute. But the zebra breaks out of her grip and runs away. Sometimes the unexpected boldness of small animals can look charming. For example, this goose that confronts angry bulls. Isn't it cute? The bird is simply unshakable. They are trying to intimidate her, push her away, trample her. But she herself goes into battle, although she is 100 times smaller than her enemy. Even the numerical advantage does not frighten her. About brave people, they say brave as a lion. But about the most fearless, you should be probably saying brave as a goose. Hardly anyone would call a lynx a helpless animal. This is a cool predator that preys on fairly large horned ones. But still, a lynx is a cat weighing up to 65 pounds, up to 30 kilograms. The cougar in the background is a giant. Some individuals can be 3 times larger and several times stronger. Their character is also tough. Aggressive cougars even fight on par with jaguars, the third panthers on the planet after lions and tigers. And cougars are happy to hunt small bears as they do not like the competition. This cougar also thought that there was a competitor in front of her, only a weak one. The lynx is a rival for her, which is easy to get rid of. But this individual turned out to be much more difficult. She kept her composure and self-control and managed to give the cougar a worthy rebuff. These are very rare shots of a skirmish between such serious predators. Under normal conditions, lynx avoid cougars, but it was not possible to get away from the meeting here. The cougar acts very aggressively, growls, tries to intimidate the opponent. Just pay attention to the lynx look. Even a primed marine would envy that composure. How would you behave if you were face to face with an angry mountain lion? The lynx didn't flinch. Her every movement is clear so that she responds optimally to the threat, saves its strength, and delivers strong, accurate strikes at the only right moment when they can reach the target. The cougar has to retreat. Unexpectedly for her, the lynx turned out to be a tough nut to crack. These tigers could handle a young elephant. Therefore, predatory cats thought that a duck was just like a snack, like a pack of chips. But they didn't know how cold-blooded and cunning this little feathered buddy was. During each attack, the duck simply dived under the surface of the murky water. And that's it. For the cats, it was gone. Probably if they had dived too, they could have even caught her blindly. However, the disappearance of the duck shocked the cats so much that they froze in place. And when the duck resurfaced, it was like a teleportation for the striped predators. As a result, the cats could not even catch one feathered bird, which did not even try to take off from them. When you see this adorable animal with an elongated ferret face, round ears, and big cute paws running through snowdrifts, the cuteness meter just overloads. But if some large predator tries to attack this little adorable buddy, he will immediately realize that he has contacted the wrong opponent. This wolf regretted that he got caught by such a little buddy. It seems that the gray predator is not laughing. Do you agree? And when you see how this creature kills a deer by himself, and you realize that nature has surprises for you. This is the wolverine. And the coolest superhero scumbag has its name for a reason. An animal the size of a spaniel that scares experienced wolves by its mere presence. Why is this? It's just that if a wolf or even a cougar has the audacity to attack our little buddy, it can end tragically for the larger predator and become nothing more than a warm-up for the wolverine itself. And how will an experienced predator behave if it meets the wolverine? Will it pick up some keys to victory, look for tactics, how to defeat the enemy? No. Here is an experienced wolf, and he made the most reasonable decision. He pretends not to see the wolverine and tries not to provoke her. Look just how the wolf looks away from the competitor who is walking around and does not show any interest in it at all. Wow. Wolves are pretty smart animals. The wolverine weighs a maximum of 55 pounds, 25 kilograms. That is 3 times less than a wolf. But just look at how this battle machine can fight 2 such opponents at once. These wolves carelessly attack wolverines, but it immediately goes on the counterattack and starts chasing opponents like puppies. The ferocity of the wolverine simply shocks both wolves, who were waiting for the victim to start running away. Apparently, they haven't faced such an opponent yet. Wolves are considered one of the most successful and effective predators on the planet. But the wolverine just doesn't care about their reputation, teamwork, intelligence, agility, and other advantages. If you make her angry, she just goes into battle and destroys everything in her path. The secret of the wolverine's success is a combination of incredible rage, bravery, and extraordinary physical abilities. The wolverine fights with both jaws and paws. Her claws, although they do not retract like cats, are very sharp and strong. This allows her to grab the victim almost tighter than a bulldog. And it's not so much the bite force as the incredible stubbornness of the animal. If the wolverine clenches its jaws, then only a burst from a machine gun can make it let go of the victim. And that is the option that first wolverines will deal with the shooter, and then return to the prey. You know about the wolverine's reputation, we know about the wolverine's reputation, even many bears know about it. But the behavior of this baby, on the contrary, is a big surprise for any predator. This is an ordinary American badger. He is much less famous than the wolverine or honey badger, although they are all relatives. Do you understand what this means? That if due to inexperience, a bear gets into a fight with a badger, it will receive the same tough rebuff as in the case of a honey badger. For its size, the badger has great strength, but still inferior to larger predators. How then does he keep them at bay? It's just that the badger's skin is incredibly strong, and the animal itself has great vitality, a high pain threshold, thick fur, and agility. Even experienced hunters prefer not to mess with the badger. There are legends that the skin of this beast is even more durable than that of a boar. Why then do we hear so little about the rage of badgers? The fact is that they don't like unnecessary problems. The honey badger and wolverine walk around their possessions and constantly run into a fight. And the badger, on the contrary, likes a quiet life normally. He prefers berries, nuts, roots, vegetables, and if it hunts, it usually hunts insects, reptiles, and small little birds. The badger loves rodents especially, so he is treated well in culture because the badger destroys pests. By the way, he's not irritable, not particularly aggressive, and doesn't try to punch the bear as soon as he notices it. He's also got a really cute face, don't you agree? American badgers have long hair, which in combination with a low-sitting body and short paws makes them look like kind of decorative dogs. European ones look especially cute due to the elongated muzzle with characteristic cute stripes. Therefore, it seems that in front of you is an ordinary quiet boy who hides from the threat and counts only on the protection of its native burrow. That's why it's such a surprise for this bear when it turns out that the badger is even more insane and berserk than his distant relatives. After all, if this guy is provoked, he will be offended and show that it is better not to run into modest people. Most predators avoid fights with an equal opponent for one simple reason: good health is needed for hunting. If the wolf overcomes the enemy, but remains with a wounded paw, it will be much more difficult for him to catch up with the prey. This can end fatally. The badger doesn't care about this at all. He goes to the end, which simply terrifies his competitors. The badger can even attack a cougar if it tries to mess with him. But the cougar is an incredibly aggressive and cruel beast. But she retreats like a frightened little kitten when the badger threatens to gnaw the cat's tendons on its paws. With his elongated but very powerful jaws, he can do this. He attacks 10 times the larger beast stubbornly and brutally over and over again. At the same time, the badger knows the pain points of the enemy and tries to hit each one. This fox thought that the badger was a helpless fatty, but realized too late that he had messed with the wrong one. The badger bites right at the base of the tail, in a very painful place. He shakes it from side to side, causing maximum damage. And thanks to the grip of powerful paws, the fox has no chance to get out until the badger lets him go. And the blows of the enemy, it seems, he simply ignores. And even if the predator retreats, the badger will chase him himself, so that the enemy will forever remember this lesson. And what unexpected victory of the victim over the predator struck you more than others? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.